Namaste. Recently, in one of our YouTube videos, in the comment section, there was a query from a lady. It was very interesting. She asked behavioral traits, about behavioral traits. Whatever comes with us by birth, can we change them? Can we mold them? That was the question. It was very interesting because many people never even think about all this. When we are born, we have certain behavioral traits which come to us from our forefathers, from our parents, grandparents, etc. Many of us do have those traits, we can see them, but how many of us think of molding ourselves into a better person or changing those traits or changing those habits? Many people never think about it. They feel that, okay, I am like this, and today it has become like a fashion to say, this is how I am, you have to accept me. Even when a person is very lazy, very lethargic, not completing work on time, if you point it out, he says, that's how I am, please accept me as I am. That has become a fashion now. But I feel it is a kind of escapism. Simply saying that's how I am, it's not going to take you anywhere. But if you say, okay, that's how I am now, maybe that's coming to me from my forefathers or whatever it may be, but that's not how I want to be. That's not the kind of person I want to be. I would like to be an active person. I would like to be a better person. If you start thinking like that, then you can definitely mold your own personal traits, your behavioral traits, and create wonderful changes. I'm going to give you two examples now. Many years back, one young gentleman came to see me for counseling. And when he came to me, he said, I have a very difficult kind of family life, because he said his father had committed a lot of crimes, and once he had even gone to jail. So he said it with a lot of sadness. And he said, I have completed my studies, I am still going for further studies. And then he says, I want to come up in my career, I want to be a very straightforward person. I do not want to be like my father. But he says, I am so afraid that because I am his son, maybe some of his behavioral traits, characteristics may come to me at a later stage in life. He says, that's one of my biggest fears. I really don't want to do anything wrong in this life. I want to live as a very straightforward, righteous person. What do I do for that? This is what he asked. Then I told him, see, when you have this thought so clearly in your mind that you do not want to be like your father, that you want to be a straightforward person, then no matter what, you will not become like him. Even though the genetic inputs may be there, we cannot refuse that. But every genetic input doesn't have to materialize in this life. Only when you give room for certain things, they can grow in this life. So I told him, you have a clear vision in your mind about what kind of person you wish to be. And keeping that in mind, you just move on. Tell yourself, these are the things I will do, these are the things I will never do. This is how I will behave, this is how I will not behave. Have a clear picture in your mind. And if you keep that picture clearly in your mind, you will keep moving towards it. As you grow, you will mold yourself to become a person like that. Because the mind is like that. You can mold the mind, you can program the mind to behave in the way in which you want it to behave. So I told him all that, and he was quite happy and hopeful. He went away. And then I met him after a couple of years. At that time, he met me, he spoke to me and said, Guruji, do you remember I came and met you? Now in these few years after that, I have been holding that picture in my mind as you advised, and I have been moving only towards that. I have not done anything wrong so far. He says, my mind doesn't even think of such things. So now I feel more confident that I will never become like my father. I will be a very straightforward person. So I am moving towards that. I've completed my higher studies. He says, now I've taken up a job and I want to really come up in my career. So it was so nice to see a young man who was able to conquer his fear. That will I become like my father? Will I also be a criminal like my father? That fear was so big in his mind. But he was able to conquer that fear, and he was able to mold himself into a much better person. That is one example. The second example also happened many years back. When I used to go directly and conduct classes in various cities, Coimbatore was one of our main centers. So I was conducting these classes there. One young man attended our basic alpha meditation class. In that class, I teach people how to mold their personality, how they can create the kind of personality they want, and I give them something called a personal page. in which you can write down all the different traits that you would like to develop, characteristic traits, behavioral traits, and the different qualities that you would like to imbibe. All that you can write down and create a proper vision in your mind. So I taught all this. I was always teaching all this in the basic class. So he came and learnt all this, and then when he came and met me later on, it was again about 2-3 years later. He came when class was going on in the evening, and he met me. There were so many people around me, and he came and wished me and said, "Guruji, can you recognize me?" I looked at him, a very nice, confident young man standing like that and speaking, so much confidence coming out of him. So I was very happy to see him, but I said, "You do look familiar, but I'm not able to place you." Then he said, "More than 2 years back, I attended this class, and you taught us how to make the personal page and how to keep visualizing it in alpha and to create those traits within ourselves and to mold our personality." He said, "After attending that class, I have been doing it regularly. Every day I have created that personal page. All the traits that I want to develop in me, I have written down there. And every day I visualize in alpha." And he says, in this 2-3 years, so many things have changed in me. He said, earlier I couldn't speak English frequently. And even Tamil, he said, I used to speak with the local slang. I never bothered about using the right words. But today, he says, I can speak English very well. I made an effort and definitely it paid off. Similarly, Tamil, consciously I started talking with good, proper selected words. And he says, my vocabulary has increased so much. And now I speak proper, nice, pure Tamil. It sounds so good to me. And he said, not only that, earlier, whenever I stood in front of anybody, I would cringe. I would never have that confidence to stand straight. But today, he said, you are seeing me. I'm always standing straight. I'm able to look people in the eye and speak. I have developed so much confidence. And whatever I do it with that proper confidence and, that belief that what I'm doing is right. So when he kept on explaining, I looked at him and I could understand, that huge change which has come over him, that transformation. I felt really very happy. So this is another example which tells us that whatever characteristics we might have got by birth may be there. We may retain the good ones, but if there are certain things which we do not like, for example, if a person is always feeling lazy, if a person is always procrastinating and not completing any work on time, these are all traits that can be changed. By programming your mind, by creating a vision in your mind, an image in your mind of how you would like to be, you are definitely overcoming any kind of self-doubt, any kind of diffidence in your mind, and you go to that level where you become the kind of person that you really wish to be. So definitely whatever characteristic traits, behavioral traits you may have by birth can be molded and you can become a much better person. There is no doubt at all about this. So practice this, try and see, and also let me know in the comment section of our videos.